I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education for the School District of Baraboo to order for Monday, August the 8th, 2016, with roll call. Mr. Cummings.
Here.
Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. McNevin.
Here.
Mr. Meering.
Here.
Ms. Riley.
Here.
Mr. Vedros.
Here.
And Bodak here. Continue with the pledge. The flag's to the right of the screen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the last board meeting, July the 25th, 2016, as printed.
Second.
Motion by Riley, who was the second? Mr. Cummings, having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Brings us thus to correspondence, of which I have none. I'll turn to administrative correspondence.
Well, I just have one because this came on my desk and I don't know if you've even seen this yet, Peter, but the WASBO Foundation has their fall conference October 6th and 7th, and there's a picture of Peter Vedro here. And it says that he's the Thursday keynote, so I will pass this around.
Thank you. I would like to extend my thanks to our Finance Chair Director, Mr. Avery, for the recommendation to keynote, and I look forward very much to speaking to our colleagues in the financial end of education.
We look forward to having you.
Thank you for representing us.
Any other administrative correspondence? Hearing none, then we are at public viewpoints. Is there anyone here for public viewpoints tonight? Any public viewpoints? Any public viewpoints? Hearing none, I'd like to turn to reports. First up, the school perception staff engagement survey results. I'll turn to Ms. Miller.
There is one. Yeah, there is. Sure. Sorry. I'm gonna scoop, but there is you can give it directions. Yeah. Yeah, well, no, it's not in settings.
Did you get that gaping hole in front of your building fixed?
Getting there. Power wasn't on yet.
That's all right.
I pictured
All
you
right.
and Dave the day before
So
school.
just as a reminder,
That didn't happen.
just as a reminder, one of the things that we did new this last school year is work with school perceptions, not only to do the community survey for a potential referendum, but also to do a staff engagement survey. And so I want to share with you the results tonight. As a summary, the staff conducted the survey in May. All staff members, so includes teachers, certified staff, non-certified staff. We had about 328 individuals respond, which is about 67%. According to other school districts, 70% is a good number of response. At which location do you spend the most time? You can see that, you know, the buildings that have the most staff obviously had the higher participation. And I'm going to go through these kind of fast and just focus on the key points, but you also have this information in your board packet. What best describes your position? 39% were classroom teachers, again, making up the largest portion of our staff. Including the current year, how many years have you worked for this district? So when School Perception shared the survey data results with us, it indicated that we have quite a few veteran people still on staff, which is a positive. So if you look at the first area, change readiness, the ability to accept, you know, different strategies or initiatives that the school district works on, they had to rate all their answers between a 1 and a 5, 5 being strongly agree, 1 strongly disagree. Each slide I'm going to share with you shows the statements that everyone responded to with the percent that strongly agree and then the average score. And because we're looking at a continuum of 1 to 5, any number that's above a 3 is considered to be positive by school perceptions. So we want to pay attention to the numbers that as an average fall below 3. So here, there's a process for evaluating the effectiveness of new initiatives. So this is something that I'll talk about the themes that the administrative team has come up with to focus on as we move forward. However, they're confident that our district will be able to develop and execute an improvement plan was high. Student achievement, again, rank ordered. So if we look, we have some really good responses, with the highest one being learning targets and curriculum objectives for my job assignment are clear. We would hope so, with the amount of resource put into curriculum. At the bottom, student discipline is handled in a consistent manner by all staff. The social and emotional needs of students are being met. This is something that sounds familiar to us, right? As a board too. Engagement, really high scores here. And actually when School Perception shared this with us, they're like, you should make this a poster for your district, because there's really high engagement across the district. All of the numbers are above 3, but again, if we want to look at the low one, the amount of work I have asked to do is reasonable. And I kind of chuckled when they shared the results with me, because I said, well, I know I scored that one low myself when I did this, because I think we all feel the pressures from above. One of the things that School Perceptions will do is they compare our data with other school districts that are like us in size and have the same kind of strategies or initiatives. And so they said, you know, even though this is your lowest score, when we compare us across all other school districts that are like us, everybody has the same or a low score. So it's not a statement about Baraboo, it's a statement about maybe the times for education. Under communication, again, every number on average is above a 3. I have a good understanding of the plans and goals of the district. I think that's great in terms of our district strategic plan. The low number, even though it's a great number, I feel the district honestly communicates with me about important issues. So it's something for us to pay attention to. How would you rate the communication from, now notice the range changes. 4 is the high score now, and 1 is poor. So technology services is scoring pretty high. That's probably not shocking. We all know how great you guys respond with Mike left away, or he's away. School board at the bottom. I don't know if that's a statement about communication or is a statement about lack of maybe access because you're not here all day long like the rest of us. Culture goes back up to a range of 5. So the top one here, my coworkers are willing to help me when I have a heavy workload. At the bottom, which again is still a really good number, I have adequate opportunities to participate in decisions that affect me. This was an interesting slide that created a lot of conversation for our administrative team. Academic expectations are too high, 23% think they're too high, 47% think they're just right, and 30% think they're too low. So I'm going to talk about what we're going to do with this slide as a next step. Work environment, really high scores here again. Top one, based on my interactions with other adults, I feel safe at work. At the bottom, I have been given the materials and supplies I need to do my job effectively. But again, all really great responses. Continued here, this is the second slide. Again, all the numbers are above 3. The last one, I have enough time to do my job effectively. Again, compared to other school districts our size, it's pretty similar. Health and wellness, great slide to help our wellness committee as we move forward. Again, 1 through 5, scores are above 3. I manage my stress well, was pretty high. The pace of implementing new initiatives is appropriate. Again, very comparable to other school districts. Development and recognition, good scores. The district's in-service days are organized and well-planned. We didn't like seeing that being our little one, so we'll talk about what we're going to do next with that. Compensation and benefits, the highest one overall, I'm satisfied with my benefits. The lowest score, we have quite a few here now that jump down under 3. Pay practices are administered consistently for all employees. That's not a surprising number to me when I think about the supply and demand of teachers and how we bring teachers in, and there are varying rates of pay after Act 10. Building leadership. Again, on a scale of 1 to 5, I trust the leadership in my building. Again, all above 3, building leadership is consistent when administering policies concerning employees. District administration, I'm gonna take this one for 5 years and hold that dear to my heart. That's why I moved here this week. And then the bottom score here, which again is really a good score, but district administration is aware of major concerns of employees. So, you know, one of the things I talked about with our administrative team is I'm gonna listen to this data, and one of the things I'll do differently this year, if this is the lowest score for district administration, so I'm gonna look for different structures to make sure that I have access to employees to share with me their concerns. School board, let's focus on this one. The school board presents a positive image to our community. 81% strongly agree or agree. So that's a high average. School board appropriately balances the mission of the district with fiscal responsibility, 73%. And the school board is doing what it takes to make our district successful, 72%. Good scores. So the overall satisfaction, all things considered, this district is a good place to work, 82%. Agree or strongly agree. Again, all these numbers above 3 is an average. Overall, the district has improved over the past year. So we don't like this slide because we don't believe in letter grades as an administrative team, but what grade would you give us? So it's good feedback, only 1% would give us an F. That's promising. How would you rate the district compared to neighboring public school districts? And this one we had a lot of conversation about too as a team. Obviously, we'd like to see ourselves compared as the best or much better. So this is something we'll want to continue to focus on as we move forward. Opportunities for growth, 99%. I understand my strengths and areas for growth. The low score here, student discipline is handled in a consistent manner by all staff. You're starting to see a theme with that one. This will be helpful with our teacher compensation work group, won't it, Mo? Please rank the following factors based on their importance in a compensation system. So this is great data for that work group to use. To provide a quality education for all students, please check a maximum of 5 of your highest priorities. So the top 5 priorities for our staff: better prepare students for life after high school, provide additional intervention support services for struggling students, provide additional counseling, psychologists, and social work services, increase the number of hands-on project-based learning opportunities, and develop innovative programs to improve student learning. The last one here, increase the number of AP or honor courses. Job satisfaction, please check up to 4 of your most important job satisfaction factors. So the top 4 is compensation, salary, good leadership, benefits, and meaningful work. Interesting, the last was recognition. Mike's just shaking his head. Okay, so you have all this data. I didn't want to take a lot of time. There's a lot to sift through. As a leadership team, we've started the process of really digging deep into this and talking about root causes for why we think the results look the way they do. And we've started to identify themes. Some of the themes that we noted was there seems to be a desire for a feedback process or a feedback loop for the initiatives or strategies that we're taking on, which will help monitor the effectiveness. We've noted that there's increased student social and emotional needs, which also brings mental health issues, and that's something we've talked about here as a board as well. There's a perceived inconsistency with our staff in dealing with student misbehavior, and that's something we need to listen to. We need to talk with our staff about what are appropriate student academic expectations and build that consensus. There's a demand for personalized yet structured professional development. We noted that people value their work environment, that they noted that we have trustworthy building leadership. There's overall a positive culture. There's a positive view of district administration and the school board, and there's high staff engagement. We view these results as really positive results. So some possible solutions and next steps. We're going to start a feedback process to give our staff voice on some of those initiatives and strategies, and knowing Nick, he already has it figured out. We're gonna establish more district structures and supports for social, emotional, and mental health needs. Some of the things that we've already put in place is we now have this mental health task force that includes local mental health providers. We're also gonna have an in-house mental health service location here at the high school once a week. We're gonna work with staff on appropriate disciplinary responses for student misbehavior, and one of the promises we've had this summer is we've had quite a few staff train on restorative practices, which is a very successful evidence-based way of dealing with misbehavior. Also, the board has approved the addition of a behavior interventionist, so that's a strategy new that we'll try this year. Highlight academic expectations that we need at each grade level. We think we need to do a better job of defining for our teachers and for our parents, students, what does it mean to be college and career ready? Celebrate not only their attainment, but also their growth as students, and develop multiple pathways to high school graduation. We're going to utilize our educator effectiveness, or EE data, to guide personalized professional development, but also work to provide more voice and choice in our structured PLC schedule. The next step here is I need to share this data with our staff. I think they're anticipating seeing the results. So in the fall here, I'm going to each of the buildings to dig a little deeper with this data than I did with you tonight. It'll be an ongoing dialogue to talk about continuous improvement. And then we'll also use this data for a lot of our collaborative engagement work groups, like the teacher compensation work group, the wellness committee, the employee handbook committee, to help guide decision-making and actions. And I would like to do this survey on an annual basis. I think that the data is so important for us, and each of the building principals received their own copy that's specific to their building. And they received it by subgroups so that they can see if they have like a really happy group of teachers, why that might be and what they can do to share that across principals and across buildings. Or maybe they have an unhappy group of EAs in their building, so maybe that they need to dig a little deeper and figure out why. And then they can really use the data to improve the work conditions for everybody. So I'd like to conduct the survey again in the spring and continue to monitor our progress and see if we can improve over time. Questions? Peter?
I would encourage you, when you share this particular data with principals in the buildings, to include the data of the previous survey done by the BEA. I think the most important thing that people look for is that whatever they produce is recognized. And we should recognize that and value that, and then seek to integrate that into the larger picture of teachers that may not be represented by the BEA in their totality, and see where the balance points are that we can improve on. So I encourage that as one thing. As we move forward, I encourage continual feedback mechanisms as well. They need to be really specific, because what we find is that in the data that was presented, there was a high rating in trust in the leadership in the community, in the educational community, meaning the board, meaning district administrator, and the leadership team. There's a high level of trust in that leadership, yet at the same time there are elements of dissatisfaction somewhere. So zeroing in, as you say, using feedback loops to be more specific, I would encourage as well.
Just to add what you're saying, Peter, I mean, this data is so essential for us. I mean, it's data that we find valid and reliable because it was done by a third-party vendor who has a lot of expertise in this area and has vetted it across school districts across the nation. So this is data that we can really use to build off of what we already have. And again, we're really thrilled with the results. And this either, it proves perceptions or it disproves perceptions, right? And allows us to focus now on really what matters. Okay. Doug?
Yeah, it's interesting when I look at the school board and I look at one page and maybe I should have gone from the back forward, but fortunately I went from the front forward. But the back, I'm looking and it's like they really think we have a positive image and we balance the mission, fiscal responsibility, and we're trying to make our school district successful. But then they rate us very poorly when it comes to communication, and I'm not going to be defensive or survey or whatever. All I would say is that when we go to the buildings and we start communicating them, what do they want us to do a better job with
Exactly.
communicating?
Yep.
And tell them that it is our willingness to do whatever we can to open up those avenues of communication. We may not be able to do everything they want, but we are going to do everything we can, and we are certainly going to do whatever we can to listen to what their needs and
And I
wants
think
and
that's the
desires are.
key, is like, we have this great data, so we have to demonstrate responsiveness to the data. So this is just a starting point. This gives us a lens to say, okay, the perception out there by our staff is we're not doing a good enough job communicating. If that's where we need to focus then as a board, now we know that, and now
Sure.
we can focus our attention. So then the next step is seeking that feedback at a different level, like what is it that they prefer
Sure.
for communication? And I think that narrowing that focus, like Peter's saying, will help us do that better.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
And that's what's powerful, because we can do that, each and every one of us,
Yep,
for our different roles.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we get on to B under reports, a couple things I wanted to do earlier. First of all, I would entertain an agenda adjustment under personnel recommendations D. Add D, long-term sub Anthony Thrun as a Jack Young Middle School math teacher. I would entertain a motion to adjust the agenda to indicate that under D for personnel.
So moved.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And lastly, we have our latest hire with us tonight. This is her first board meeting, so I hope that by the end of the night she has at least a decent impression of the board and the board meeting.
And they are really good communicators.
Mrs. Amy Fosbender, our new principal at GLW. So if the board has not had an opportunity to meet her, welcome Amy, welcome to Baraboo. And I don't know if you were told you had to be here tonight, or if you came of your own.
I heard that it was here, and I really wanted to come. So
Okay.
Did they tell you that,
There are some must-see events.
did
It's
they
gonna
tell
be
you we
pretty
don't
incredible.
usually get done before midnight?
Just keep that smile.
Thank you, and again, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Moving then on to be under reports, Mr. Avery, the 2015-16 year-end fund situation.
Fun.
Last month I told you projected year end would be $553,651. The unaudited actual is $579,133, so for a surplus. The recommendation at this point is that at the end of the audit period, so there will be some tweaks to that number, but it's pretty well dialed in, that money there will be a motion after the audit to allocate that to unreserved, designated for cash flow purposes. And then there's a recommendation or a request that may or may not come in 2 weeks on using part of those dollars. So that's where we're at.
Is there a particular item that, that's a pretty significant surplus, very nice. Is there a large chunk that is producing the majority of that, or is it a cumulative effect?
It's
across
a
the board?
cumulative across a number of things. There were,
Utilities, diesel.
utilities was way down. Transportation cost, fuel for the buses, those were the three biggest ones. And then there were just things that were scattered throughout.
Okay.
You said it would go to unreserved. Does that mean we can apply to fund balance?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's all fund balance, it's just
Okay.
different parts of fund balance.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Unless anybody else has any more questions. Hearing none, I'd like to then move on to personnel. First up, under the approval for a leave of absence, under A, Nathaniel Greason, who is currently a Baraboo High School math teacher. There was some background provided in your board packet, and I guess before we act upon that, I want to know if there's anything different from a normal process as far as just the approval of the leave of absence. Is there anything you unique that we need to do in his situation?
No, all he has to do is provide us his official paperwork, and you know, by law obligated to give him that leave of absence for 4 years. And what he's obligated to do is to let us know at any point during those 4 years if he's going to resign, to let us know as soon as possible. And I think there's a certain period of time towards the end of the 4 years where he has to alert us and give us official paperwork that he's coming back, so that you can plan for that, you know, in terms of having a position for him ready to go.
What is that, is there like a length of period of time where he says, hey, I'm coming back? Is it 1 year, 6 months? What is it?
I forget, I'm looking for Ellen, do you recall? Colleen was looking into it today, our human resource specialist.
Okay, I mean, again, it's not that's affecting our decision here, but I'd
No,
still like
right.
to know what that number is.
Sure, yep, and I will do a follow-up email
Sure,
for you.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, unless there's any other questions, thus I would entertain a motion for the approval of the leave of absence of Nathaniel Greason.
I move to approve the leave of absence of Nathaniel.
Second.
Motion by Mearing, seconded by Coleman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
And Mr. Avery was noting we should thank him for his service.
Absolutely thank him for his service to the US Navy, that's where he's going. Brings us then to the approval of resignation, Megan McCall from the North Freedom Kindergarten teaching position. Entertain a motion for the acceptance of that resignation.
Move to approve Megan's resignation.
Second.
Motion by Mearing, seconded by Riley. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Then brings us to C, the approval for posting of a Jackie Young Middle School .28 FTE math teaching position.
I move to approve.
Rationale provided in your board packet. If anyone has any further questions after a second, I've got a motion. Was there a second?
Second.
If anybody has any request for any further clarification as to the necessity for that position?
Well, I do believe in necessity, but when we're talking .28, what is are we having a plan of how we're going to fill that?
We have someone that used to work for us as a teacher who's been across overseas, teaching at international school, who has an interest, who's gonna be serving in the community as a youth pastor,
Okay.
and would have the ability to teach that time. So there's no guarantee that that person would be the person, but we do have a high-quality candidate in that person right now.
Okay, good.
My understanding is that fits the need of that particular candidate.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to D, the agenda addition, which is the long-term substitute position at the middle school for math, Anthony Thrun.
So moved. Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Cummings. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to new business. A is the approval of disbursements. For that, I'll turn to Chair of Finance, Mr. McNevin.
Move to approve. Second.
A motion by McNevin, seconded by Cummings. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to B, C, and D. B and C, I should say, those are also agenda items from finance, so I'll return it to Mr. McNevin.
Move to approve. Second.
Having a motion by McNevin, seconded by Mr. Coleman. Any discussion? Anybody want any additional explanation? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to D. Administration building options. I will turn to Mr. Avery for kind of a timeline, which is going to tie into B and C as well. So, Mr. Avery, if you could give us a
Certainly.
short version.
First of all, the offer to purchase was submitted and signed by both parties today and has been filed with our legal counsels. The contingencies are, of course, approval of the electors at the annual meeting for the purchase, as well as to authorize the board to borrow funds sufficient to make the acquisition and subsequent board action at the board meeting following the annual meeting. Other than that, it was pretty straightforward. Last possible closing date, September 16th. This will go to the annual meeting, as I noted. Per statute, requirement on the vote to purchase the property, as well as a separate statute requirement on the borrowing of funds from the state trust fund loan to fund it. And then we would go through the application process, which should be wrapped up in early to mid-September when the loan is funded. So that's where we're at with the building.
And there's no action necessary from the board?
There's no action at this point, no.
Anybody have any questions before we move on? Hearing none brings us then to E, back to Mr. McNevin for the Modernized Community Campus Strategic Direction.
Do you want help?
Oh, sure, I mean, we've got a lot of experts here.
Yeah, tonight we have a couple of people here from CG Schmidt and EUA to help out. So, do we want to start with maybe Bob first? Bob Morris.
Sure.
Bob's like great. Do you everybody see Bob's highlighters there? That's his favorite.
Yes.
Bob, everybody has what Bob Weigert presented, so they all
Okay.
have a hard copy of this.
So just to walk you through the plan, that's what we're doing, right? Have a quick recap of where the design stands at this point. If you're looking at the plan in your packet. What we've sort of put together with the core team is a plan that addresses, and Sean has talked about it in terms of the 3 different areas of what we're trying to do. Some things that have changed, I guess, or things to look at based from where we were at last time would be the fitness center location. We looked at before, we were showing the fitness center more on the west side of the building, which was really a carryover from where we were showing it with the previous design that included a fitness center. Now that the fitness center is now part of the equation, we've done some redesign to make that work a little better in its location as a standalone element, which is where that change came about. The fitness center is now sort of a 2-story fitness center, accessed in the middle of the building. Other changes to note, the commons area, we looked at expanding and based on some of the discussion at here and then subsequent discussion with the core team, we felt a need to expand it further than what we were showing before, especially since the option of including the fitness center pre-function area is no longer part of that. So we looked at sort of pushing the boundaries on both directions of the existing commons area to expand both west and east. Expanding west is accomplished by relocating some of the kitchen equipment to allow us to expand there. But then the greater expansion is really, we looked at pushing that more to the east, where we feel like there are some inefficiencies we can take advantage of with the existing main entry. Reclaim some space and actually add that back into usable square footage for the building. Relocating the kitchen does require the relocation of a couple other rooms as well, so there's some domino effects that come as a result of that. How much more detail do you want me to go into? If you have any questions, I'm happy to go into more detail or less detail, or.
Can you give me a square footage for the commons currently, and then post renovation? How much square footage are we gaining, do you think?
I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but roughly speaking, we are not quite, but almost doubling the size.
The seating area.
Yeah, the capacity currently, Glenn's not here, but I believe he states usually it's around 325. And the goal was to get the capacity more at 500 to 550.
Right.
600 would be really ideal so that we can have just 2 lunch periods versus 3 separate lunch periods. And so that's the goal of expanding the size.
I understand.
Yeah.
I would say, 325 currently it's everybody's saying awfully close. And so doubling it makes a lot of sense. have we then also increased substantially the kitchen area? The cooking preparation area?
It's I would say a modest increase, the kitchen area.
Is, help me, I believe a lot of the food is brought in, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Is, so that the expansion of, the modest expansion of the kitchen area is appropriate since a lot of the food is prepared off-site and then brought in?
Yeah, and Mary has seen the plan.
Right,
Is-
that's-
Yes, and keep in mind that this is just really conceptual at this point, that we're starting to get into the weeds of the conversation that's too far down the road at this point.
I think most of the prep is done here, actually. You can ask Glenn. But as far as the kitchen prep, it's done here. There are some other schools that we support out of the high school. I guess we like to, as a committee, like to say that so much has been determined, but nothing's been decided.
Right.
You know, we've steered so far in setting course and direction and really narrowed that down, but yet nothing's been decided, because right now this is just his highlighters and a couple of initials, and with a whoosh of the highlighter, all things change.
The concept at this point, the development of the plan is really to be able to hone in on a budget number. Because at this point, we're not going through a full design process because the funds have not been yet allocated. The goal at this point is to work with these guys back here so that we're confident that the dollar amount you're asking for gets you to the needs that you have. It's always a little bit of a delicate balancing act. We don't want to dive too far down a specific solution before we've had the chance to completely engage all the staff that will be involved in each of those areas. So there's a natural progression of that plan that happens once the funds are allocated, then we can begin to talk in detail with each of the individual users. The plan takes on a lot of meat and becomes fleshed out and progresses naturally. But the goals should remain unchanged from now to the end of it.
But a lot of this is based upon the input that we've had from staff and other community
Oh,
members.
well, certainly.
So-
It's all
so-
driven on, it's all been driven on staff input and community response to that plan. I guess I just want to take a moment now to thank the board for the support and direction you've given the committee over the last 9 months, and especially the work of the committee members. We've got Mike, Kevin, and Ed, and especially Lori, in helping bring this all together. I mean, this was a quite a push to gather in a lot of information and to set a direction, to provide the feedback to the board. The board's been very supportive, you know, in keeping us guided on the right track with our monthly or bi-monthly updates. When we talk about modernizing our community campus as part of our strategic direction, last time we took a look at a $9 million investment spread out over 5-6 buildings. This is a $22 million laser focused on one building. It will completely revitalize this building. And just things like HVAC and you know, updating a 1960s heating plant, and not only for air conditioning throughout the building, although half of it's missing, not only for air conditioning throughout the building, but also for heat regulation in different times of the year when you're sitting there sweating and you can't stop. But then the classrooms, especially when it comes to tech ed, phi ed, family and consumer ed, I mean, those are all growing areas. This identifies and takes care of a lot of needs. Still not all of them, but it certainly changes the dynamics of this building, right, Glenn? Absolutely.
With
To look forward to.
with the field house component removed, can you speak a little bit more specifically about what the new construction around the fitness classrooms, 2-story level would be?
Sure. I think in that original plan that had the fitness center, we were looking at, or the field house, we were looking at the field house and then the fitness center component and other support spaces associated with the field house. With the field house off of the table, the other components that kind of went off with that were locker rooms associated with that field house. But the fitness center is still a need that's there, whether the field house is
As
part
a
of that or
classroom.
not. The fitness center is definitely a real need. And because the fitness center isn't part of the equation in a way, saying my words all backwards. So the field house isn't part of the equation. The fitness center need becomes that much more tangible and that much more immediate, I would say.
Well, and part of, to Peter's point, part of what we're looking at is, we had it off to the west. In other words, it was on flat ground, it was right there, it was proximity to a proposed, co-curricular space called the field house. And we initially, it was still there, it was still kicked out to the west in the parking lot because it's easy, it's flat. And we're like, well, now, wait a minute. From a curricular point of view, you're taking that Phi Ed area and you're splitting it up even more. You're saying, okay, kids, I'm gonna work with some of you in the aux gym, some of you are gonna go to the fitness room, and it's down this hall, all the way to the front of the building, over to the right. And so supervision became an issue. So we said, put that, because you don't know if the co-curricular space of the field house ever gets addressed in the future. So the notion was bring it back, close proximity to the locker rooms, the aux gym, the main gym. And unfortunately, that loading dock is just a terrible split level home that's gotta be dealt with back there. The only reason why it's 2 stories is because of the layout of the building. And the neat thing that they incorporated in was tying it in with the upper balcony of the existing gym as well as elevator access. That's something that was never planned for in any of the original designs. Now we get rid of the tiny little service elevator we have to meet code to putting in a proper function. So there's an improvement. And so there's been a lot of neat things that have been thought of and added. The sprinklers was the other one that have evolved with the design. But that's kind of where it's at. So determined, yes, that the space is needed, decided that that's where it goes, not necessarily.
Well, we had talked about the fact that, I understand the field house is out there for the future because of the need, the expanding interest and need of our students in co-curricular activities and incorporating all of that eventually into a field house type structure. What I'm concerned is as many of the needs that we had for expanded co-curricular as well as regular PE classes can be met by this structure. That's really what I'm hoping for.
I would say several of the needs.
Right.
You've got
Right.
congestion in the weight room, it's gonna alleviate that. You've got supervision of kids in a curricular environment that this is going to improve dramatically. This certainly doesn't alleviate our co-curricular needs. I just found out that varsity volleyball's practice starts at 5:30 in the morning because of gym space time. So that makes an awful early rise for a 16-year-old, 17-year-old girl
Yeah.
to start the day, to then go through the whole day and then have after-school activities. But we do that because there's only limited access to a gym. So it's far from solving our problems. But, again, it is a sense of gratitude, talking to the committee. Mike's new-ish to the committee, but Kevin and Ed, a lot of effort went into this, and we sure appreciate the support of the board. And, it really comes down to letter F, which is coming up next.
And so also tonight we have Sarah and Eric here from CG Schmidt. Sarah's gonna talk a little bit about a communication and engagement plan.
You have it up on the screen here.
I'm working on it.
While she's
Yeah.
going through the mechanics of getting ready, maybe we can talk about let's talk timing, because we can never seem to pin you down. And Eric's here too. So it passes in November. It's designed and built by and designed by spring and it's completed by fall, right? Is that
Close.
close?
Which fall are we talking about?
They're only adding one number on it.
I would say fall of 2017, but I have a feeling that that's the wrong fall.
That's gonna be awfully aggressive to the point where I think, it would probably be a disservice to try and rush it that fast. And I think, given the amount of additions and remodeling that we have to do, and the intensity, especially in the tech ed spaces, face and art as a result of the circulation, that won't be able to be, if we have to tackle that all at once, there's a very good chance we're not gonna be able to efficiently do that in one summer break. So there's gonna be a significant amount of sequencing and phasing that has to happen in order to maintain day-to-day operations of the high school and not sacrifice any type of classes. We still have to have the traditional classes and class offerings. So that's why.
Or lunch. You can't
Or lunch.
sacrifice lunch.
They tend to like to eat, I don't know why, they eat a lot. So it's gonna have to be a phased approach, and that's gonna make it prolonged, and that's why I believe that's gonna have to occur over 2 summer periods, especially when we start looking at the mechanicals. It's gonna take us a while simply to order the physical equipment that's gonna be
Design.
needed.
I mean, just
Design
design
is-
of the mechanicals,
Well,
right?
and EUA they need a long time to design.
They do.
It doesn't come quickly. No. But it is, it's gonna take, we're talking about significant pieces of mechanical equipment coupled with the design to get the size right, so it's good for the next 4 or 5 decades. That alone is probably gonna take us 24 to 30 weeks. And you start tacking all that on, you start backing up. We cannot install these boilers in the dead of winter, because we'll be shutting down the whole high school. We gotta install them in the summer, and most likely that summer is gonna be the summer of 18.
Yep.
We'll be doing the infrastructure, summer of 17, getting ready, but we'll really be online in the summer of 18. So that leads me to believe, obviously, getting back to summarize, starting as soon as we can to maximize the summer of 17, because that's gonna help the school year of 17, 18. And then summer of 18, doing all the major equipment upgrades, that's gonna really be the true service of the school. And then the additions, as we go, those are gonna come online at different periods. Obviously, we have to maintain access to the high school, we have to provide parking, we have to have safe bus drop-offs. We're talking about a potential addition right in the front of the building that needs to be timed precisely. I would rather do that off the cuff in the 18 calendar year so that I can get everything ordered, everything's here, everything's ready to go, and I can put this thing together as quickly as possible without having to wait for anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't make us happy, but it makes sense.
You didn't pay me to make you happy.
We haven't paid you anything yet.
That's a whole level of services that you don't want to purchase.
We don't want any happiness.
Well,
I want you to be happy at the end. I believe it's gonna be a little upset at the beginning.
I'm probably not as patient as most. Sorry, Sarah.
That's okay.
I digress.
And just as a reminder, this document that's up there, you have this in your packet if it's easier to see in your packet.
He's kind of a tough act to follow.
He is.
but, I'll do my best, so. So basically, we've done this before with phase 1, so we can, work through this whole referendum communication process, going forward for phase 2. I brought a sample of what we had assembled and put together and worked on last time to get the information out to the community, so I just brought one, but if you guys want to take it and just pass it along, if you want to take a look at it, it just shows the depth of everything we did in order to get that information out to the community. So basically what we've been doing, we've been meeting as a group, we have a separate committee, a communications committee, so it's district administration, it's EUA, and it's CG Schmidt, different representatives from each company. So we've been meeting every 2 weeks to kind of map out this whole strategy and this whole, plan. So basically, as you can see, we met on August 4th and the 17th. So we've really got the plan in place, and we've kind of done a master event calendar as well. So that's trying to get all of the events that are going on in the community. So you as board members and district administration and staff can get out in the community and talk about the referendum, potential referendum coming. And then what we do is we kind of divide this up into referendum materials. Those are all the deliverables. So as you'll see in the binder, it's everything from fact sheets to FAQs to postcards to anything that we want to do to get that information out. And then the next piece is the stakeholder engagement and events. We'll really start heavy with that when everyone's back at school. Teachers are coming back, parents are going to be in the building, so that's when we'll really start to engage the community. And then the traditional social media campaign, that's basically all the things we can do, like Twitter and Facebook, things that you have existing in the district, that we'll take and we'll create messages on there to support kind of all the other things that we're doing throughout the district, to get the information, you know, on the building option and some of the different services that are gonna be improved and enhanced. And then the website. And I'd always encourage you to direct people to the website. We'll keep all the information current on there. A lot of times we have a tax impact calendar on there. We have, you know, everything from the fact sheet to the, you know, floor plans to anything you can think of will be on the website. So we always encourage people, if you have parents that ask questions, community members that ask questions, always direct them back to the website because they can have all their questions answered there. Yes?
Thank you. I seem to remember, and you may have to help me, that in our assessment of community outreach, that the most, or a very significant component of our community that is not parents with children in the schools, these are our older, less connected people, get most of their information from the Baraboo News Republic. And I want to encourage us to utilize funding to create a narrative during that period of time to ensure that those, that group of people that are unsure of what is going on for the most part and get most of their information from questionable sources about what's real. That we have a structure for that group of people. I think it was something like 27%, but it is a critical 7% that we want to move into the support category. And that since they get most of their information from the Baraboo News, that we really do focus on that strategy of telling stories of, you know, I see, you know, we have listed traditional media, news releases, et cetera. But I think we need something deeper to engage that group of people. And that includes us bringing them into these new facilities, busing them in from the retirement homes, you know, going to them, but also bringing them here for events that have food, wine and cheese, those kinds of things. I'm serious. I'm serious.
Yeah, we did go to the community centers last time we made presentations. I know a couple of board members went with me, and I think Crystal was there at the time. So that's something we'll certainly, you know, we can add into the plan. You know, we kind of have mapped this out now, and we kind of know when things will hit. The only thing that's probably a little bit different that we haven't done is that instead of doing 2 direct mail postcards like we did last time, we're gonna do a newsletter instead, so it'll be a little bit more comprehensive, and we kind of thought that would address that audience as well, because they'll wanna read some information. And then, you know, the unusual thing too about this community is that everyone reads the paper, and a lot of communities you go into, the paper doesn't get a lot of traction. So there's things we can do like letters to the editor, we could put ads in the paper, we could, you know, do stories in the paper to talk more about those, you know.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying. I would like us to spend money to get space in the newspaper, because they have a policy of 200 words and letters to the editor. You know, I've been arguing that Crystal used to have a column once a month or so about what's going on in education. And it is really specifically for that group that is disconnected from what all of we are doing, that get information from unvetted sources, if you will.
I think another way to reach that group, and in fact, a much wider community than that, is to piggyback on many of the election preparation events, League of Women Voter events, debates, things that may happen locally that address, that are organized by the university, by City Hall, concerning the election. If we do nothing more than have our materials at those events, so that if you're interested in what's going on in November, and the election in November, and you're going to go to this meeting or a social event, and you can pick up materials that will help you vote on the school referendum, that would be, it's a tremendous way to get the message out. As a board member, I would be certainly willing to sit at a table at at some of those events, or to attend them in order to answer questions, whatever. There will be a number of things that are organized in preparation for that, and we're part of that election. We've got a message.
The other thing we always do too is we sit down with each community, is we usually meet with the local paper, and we meet with the editor and the reporter, and we map out this whole process. And so they kind of know those key milestones that'll be coming, because it's easier for them to plan through the whole process. I've done that in most other districts, and it works really well. We did that, the first time for phase one. So I think that'd be a great way to get us started on this, this road to the referendum.
It's gonna be a similar process. The only major difference is that we're all in one building, versus we were going from building to building, having open houses and stuff. We'll have open houses here, just here, basically.
Good. Any other questions about the communication and engagement plan? And we can tweak this as we go. We'll continue to meet for the next 2 weeks, and if you guys have any ideas, or if you come up with an organization you want us to meet with, or you want Lori to.
That's what I was gonna add is, right now Christina and I have started to map out this long calendar of series of events. So like when you're mentioning those ideas, Mo, it would be great that you're sharing those ideas with us, because we're actually placing it in a calendar and setting up those dates and times. So the more help that you can help us with, the better.
And you guys did a great job last time, the first go around, of really getting out in the community and, and talking about the project. So we'll certainly look for your support moving forward. And then the only other thing is that we had also included referendum guidelines and advocacy information in your packet as well. So I just encourage you to read through that, just as a reminder. Most of you have been through this before, kind of the ins and outs. But it's a little bit different for district staff as it is for board members. So just kind of knowing those fine lines of what to say and what you can't say. Our job really is to just get the information out into the community. We're not telling people vote yes, vote no. It's basically, here's the information. And then of course at the end, we'll encourage them to get out and vote, but we're not telling them to vote yes or to vote no. So just a healthy reminder as we move forward together in this process.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us then to F, approval of the Phase 2 facility referendum questions. And before we get into that, Mr. Avery, the initial resolution, which is the first one for us to act upon, does that then become the ballot question? Or is the ballot question separate from these two items?
Let me open up the initial resolution. That,
Because if we're not dealing with the ballot question, my question then is, when do we?
the actual, the official ballot is, the official ballot question is, shall the school district of Baraboo, Sauk, and Columbia Counties, Wisconsin be authorized pursuant to Chapter 67 of the Wisconsin statutes, general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $21,950,000 for the public purpose of paying the cost of additions, renovations, and repairs at Baraboo High School, and the acquisition of furnishings, fixtures, and equipment, question mark. So it's very slightly different. This is the resolution. The ballot question is actually rephrased into the form of a question.
We do not need to vote specifically on the ballot question?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure that I was clear. So first up then, we have the initial resolution authorizing the general obligation bonds, and I will read the initial resolution when we get into the actual resolution itself. I'm not going to read however many pages that is. The initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $21,950,000 Be it resolved by the School Board of the School District of Baraboo, Sauk, and Columbia Counties, Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 of the Wisconsin Statutes general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $21,950,000 for the public purpose of paying the cost of additions, renovations, and repairs at Baraboo High School and acquisition of furnishings, fixtures, and equipment, adopted and recorded on the 8th of August 2016. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the initial resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Coleman. Any question or discussion on the initial resolution? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Brings us then, resolution passed, brings us then to the resolution providing for a referendum election on the question of the approval of an initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $21,950,000 with its all appropriate whereas and whereas. And I'm not going to read that unless someone asks me to, which I hope they don't. So with that having been said, I would entertain a motion for the adoption of that resolution.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by McNevin, seconded by Vedral. Any discussion? Item number 2. Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to approve. Adjournment.
I'll second that.
Any motion by Mearing, seconded by Riley. Any discussion on adjournment? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?